Hey, football beer. That's why we are here, fans. I'm on the road this week, sitting down in the Starbucks for Super Wild Card Weekend. Dave is at his home studio with all of his cool gear on and behind him. He's a proud man today. Uh, Lots to be happy for Dave, and his San Francisco 49ers took care of business. Oh, he's pouring his celebration brew. Before we get into it, first, congratulations. And what is your celebration brew? And then we'll get into the game itself.
Thank you, thank you. Celebration brew today. I went a little bit narcissistic. We have a Figueroa Mountain Davy Brown Ale. So I got a Davy Brown Ale here. It is a 6%. Figueroa Mountain is brewed in the central coast of California. Thought I'd go with a nice wintry dark ale. So we have a nice dark color there. Dark for a brown. Black. Should be a Davy Black Ale. Go in for a little taste here. Ooh, yeah.
Nice.
Do that. That's nice. I'll have to put a little asterisk by that one when I put it down in our history of brews we've featured on the show, which I have a list, so try not to duplicate on here for all of our viewers. But yeah, real good, and thanks for that. Congratulations. I mean, I talked, obviously I have a Seahawk fan in my house. I have a lot of Seahawk friends and family members. So I talked to a few yesterday, and really, if you watch the game, if you didn't watch the game, I don't know, but there was about a 10-minute period in the game of game time where the Niners just kind of went nuts. They got 22 points real quick, the end of the third, start of the fourth, and that was basically it. Other than that, the game was close the whole game. Seahawks had the lead at the half by a point. So that was something that, they completely had momentum at the end of the first half after the 49ers squib kicked it with 8 seconds left, and they returned it to the 38-yard line. And then they were able to get a decent pass to about midfield. And then no, it wasn't a pass, it was a run by Geno Smith. And he slides, and Ward, the safety, hits him late, an extra 15 yards, long field goal, but they make it. And it puts them up 17-16 at halftime for the Seahawks. And right there, I was like, well, crap. Seattle really came to play. It should be a close game. These teams have played each other twice already this season, so they know each other. But that was a huge momentum. And we had talked in a text a little bit at that time, and I said, the 49ers need to come right out and score after halftime because they get the ball, and they just they have to come down and score and get that momentum back at home in this playoff game, because at halftime they didn't have any of the momentum whatsoever. So fortunately, they did come in. They had a good drive, went down, scored. McCaffrey was great. Samuels was great. The defense was a little suspect here and there that day, but it was mainly bigger plays. Everything else they did pretty well. But just overall super happy. They met the spread, which we had both picked them to win, and then the night game was a little bit different. I'll let you talk about that one, but yeah, I'm stoked to move on. We'll get another home game. We'll probably end up playing either the Cowboys or the Vikings, I would guess, next week. But yeah, good, just awesome to move on. Purdy, rookie quarterback, 3 touchdown passes. I mean, he set all sorts of rookie playoff records with his performance. Looked good for a little bit. He looked frazzled in the second half where they were getting some pressure, but didn't have any interceptions, threw the ball away, managed everything well. So, yeah, great win. I was real happy about it.
Yeah, I think he's what now 6-0 as a starter. I mean,
Yep.
and coming in and with that playoff pressure, I mean, you can really look and see what that does. I mean, you look at what happened with Kyler Murray last year in the playoffs. They had a great start of the year, barely, made the wild card, and then he looked like a high school player in that game, and he was scared running around. But Purdy looked like he's, this isn't his first rodeo, and so it was good. But hey, Kim, thanks for joining us this morning early. I know it's early here on the West Coast. I'm in California, sitting at a Starbucks. So my brew selection for the day, unfortunately, they don't let alcohol in here. So my brew is of the coffee kind, and just to make sure I make it through the show, I've got two. So
Same flavors, or did you mix it up?
no, they're the same flavors. I was gonna get their nitro brew. I've never actually had a nitro brew, the cold brew or whatever, off
Yeah.
tap. I was gonna get that and try to sell it off as a porter, but or stout. But yeah, no, it's so I'm here enjoying this. But thanks everyone for joining the show early. We visiting families week and just trying to figure out a time. Maybe next week we can get a Saturday show in before the games start. Dave and I will work that out and see what next week looks like. I'll be back at the home studio. So yeah, the night game last night, man. I'll tell you what. At halftime, I was thinking it's a trap. It's a trap. Don't fall for it. It's a trap. It's the freaking Jaguars. They do this shit to me every week. Every week they're effing with me because whoever I pick, they just find a way to just screw with Chuck, and they did that. They did that exact same. I mean, 5 turnovers by the Chargers last night, 3 interceptions. I just this was a real letdown, Kim. I'm feeling for you this morning. Hopefully you didn't say, oh, you know what, at halftime it's over, I'm going to bed, because the offense only scored 3 points in the second half, and that was an absolute failure. I mean, you can look at Bosa's penalty at the end. It definitely gave the Jaguars the incentive to go for 2, and they got it. I mean, but the defense just. I mean, you can. I've been on the Twitterverse last night and this morning already, and everybody's kind of dumping on the defense. But realistically, the offense just didn't have anything in the second half, and there was a lot of field goals in the first half. They'd move the ball down. I'm not dumping it on Herbert, but honestly, I'm putting this one a little bit on the coach. I think maybe the offense was a little vanilla and didn't give Herbert maybe enough opportunities to maybe. I mean, he had a really nice 14-yard run for first down when they needed it. I mean, he stepped up, said, "Hey, we got to have this." Boom, got down there, got it. But he's out. He's without Williams. I think Allen went out for a little while, and but he was hitting Everett, and the second half it was just not much going on there, and I just think the offense is a little vanilla already this morning. I'm seeing a lot of people calling for Staley's head to be fired. He's got this talent, and you just can't do anything with it. Yeah, so Kim says, nope, that game was rigged and the refs sucked. Honestly, come on. Now, if you look at the first half, I'm not saying one thing or the other, but there were a lot of suspect calls that should have went against the Chargers, some pass interference calls. But realistically, I thought they played it consistently. I mean, they called it consistently. It had to be super contact to get a call, and yes, I mean they were letting them play physical, which is good playoff football. And but I know that every pass, the receivers and Doug Peterson were screaming at the refs all night long, and it is what it is. But hey, they won the game, and the Chargers fell asleep in the second half with their offense. I think they're. I mean, yeah, you can say, okay, come on, defense. You got to get another turn. You got to, the ball off the helmet on the punt. That's something that's not. That's just it's an oddball thing. Guy shouldn't have been in the area, whatever it is. But yeah, that was a tough one. I was once they got 14 points. I'm like, we're in trouble if you're as a Chargers fan for the night. So anyway, and I think that's kind of messed up my Super Bowl picks. I might have done something stupid by saying the Chargers were going to go to the Super Bowl. I don't know. I might have had some weird thing in there, or maybe lose the AFC Championship game. But yeah, I'm glad they made the playoffs, and you still have to look. We got next year. I'll tell you what. Williams and Allen in the full time last night probably could have given. Herbert might have felt more comfortable with some things, but once you get your top receivers out, the defense can really just start keying on, okay, who's our biggest threat, and let's just get after Herbert, after. And I thought the offensive line did a did a good job. I really do. I mean, they only got to him I think twice last night, but yeah, it was a good game. Unfortunately, the ending just didn't end up like maybe many of us hoped. And we both picked the Chargers. They were favored by one, and we both picked them, and we lost that one. Any
Yeah, it
other
was.
thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was just to see how much talent the Chargers have on their squad, and not saying the Jaguars don't. The Chargers have a lot more established talent. The Jaguars have a bunch of young guys, especially on offense. You know, you have Etienne, the quarterback, Lawrence. You got Jones at receiver. Um, they're a young team, so this is a great builder for them, especially getting that home playoff win. They haven't been in the playoffs for a while. I am kind of on the fence of like it was that Charger game the coach's fault, and I know that there's been a lot of more expectations for this Chargers team, but I mean he won 10 games in a hard division. I mean, he's in the same division as the Chiefs. The Raiders and the Broncos weren't that great this year, but they won a good amount of games. It's not like they were losers. They won a good amount of games this year. They got in the playoffs, and they just kind of blew it. I mean, they had 20-point lead at a point in the first half, but we know games aren't won in the first half. So, and there was the games they did lose this year. They kind of blew it in the second half. So, if they do keep this coach, that I mean, the whole emphasis I think going into next season, besides trying to keep all that talent they have, is how do we finish games? I mean, how can we finish games? We have the talent, even with Williams out. I mean, Eckler had a great game, and he often does. So maybe take a little bit off of Herbert, figure out how you can manage a game with Eckler a little bit more and the talent he has, and I think running the game and running clock and not giving another team as many opportunities to come back in a game, eat that clock.
Right.
So yeah, really unfortunate. I live in Charger country down here in Southern California, so there's a lot of upset friends and people. The area is upset after last night because they thought they had one. They really thought they had one easy, and we're gonna see what happened second round. But so is the playoffs. But good for Jacksonville, good for that young team, from where they have been at, and we'll see what they can do next week against a much tougher opponent probably.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. I think it was Trevor Lawrence. I didn't actually listen to the quote, just kind of read it this morning, and he said something after the game to the reporter, something about, seems like the NFL scripted, right? It's rigged. I think we've been saying that all year. And hey, thank you. You want to thank us for charging. Thank you for being a part of the show this morning. Again, we're on a few hours earlier than normal, or a couple hours earlier than normal. Something a little bit out of the whack, but thanks for being a part of our show every week, Sam. We appreciate your thoughts and feedback, and everyone that watches the show would love your comments. Be a part of the show, be a part of the conversation, as we always say. So there are still a few football games today, and one tomorrow, and let's jump into that. And also, we're using a new software for our broadcast. So this is the first time using it, and normally I have 3 monitors to work with, and I've just got my laptop here, so things aren't going to make it in there today, unfortunately. But and Dave will be happy about this first part that's not going to make it in there, and that's our totals for the end of the regular season and our picks from last week. I think I went 11-5 last week, which pretty darn good week. Probably one of my best weeks this season. And you went 6-10. I now have a 9-game lead on you going through the playoffs. There's not a lot left for you, buddy, to make up 9. And you pointed out that I needed to razz you this week because every game that we picked that was different, I won.
Yep.
And so yeah, feeling a little bit good about that. And I think I got a little. All right. Okay. So hey, but we got some games today. We'll put all of that behind us, and it's a brand new week. So we're 1-1 after Saturday's game. But our first game up this today that we can look at is the AFC wild card, Miami and Buffalo. Buffalo is favored by 10.5 at home. Miami still doesn't have Tua, that I heard. So it's unfortunate for that kid that you know uh, it really is unfortunate, and it's kind of one of those things you're thinking, is he going to be? Is this kind of a retirement thing? I mean, how 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 long do you stay out for? Right? It's a concussion still, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, how long are I don't know. I'm not a medical expert. Never really looked into it. How long symptoms of concussions can last? And but this has been 5 weeks probably, and that he hasn't come back, and there's not even really much talk of the possibilities. So for this season, so you're in your playoff game, and of course you want him healthy. I'm not saying put him out there if he's not healthy, but I was just kind of thinking last week and this week is like, is this something that's like, hey, you know what? Had 2-3 concussions this season alone. It's just not going to work out, for my health, for the future, and my family, and I'm just going to have to, sit down. But anyway, what do you think about this game, or your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday how weird this Tua thing is. We had a few people over at the house. My wife had a work event, and one of the women that was at my house is a Dolphins fan, and so we were talking about the Dolphins, and I just said, this is the oddest thing I've ever seen with this Tua situation. He plays, he gets, concussion, knocked out. It's not handled right at the start of the season, and then he misses some games. But now it's the end of the season, and he hasn't played for like 3 weeks, and apparently he can't, like, I don't know what are the procedures he's having to do. Like, are they
Yeah.
doing CAT scans and he's got gray matter on his brain? Like, does he have blood in there? Does he have a bruised skull? Like, can he not be cognitive? Are they running through some sort of visual tests and he can't, respond quick enough to things? Or, like, what is the testing for this? Hey,
Right.
when you get up in the morning and get out of bed and go to use the bathroom, are you wobbly? Is your equilibrium off at times during the day? Like, is he having symptoms of a concussion? Like, nobody knows.
Right.
And so that's a real, you got to do what you got to do. And, it's his private health matter, but there's a lot of people invested in his health. You have $1 billion owner that would probably like to know, like, hey, I've invested hundreds of millions of dollars into this gentleman.
Right.
What's going on with him? We're in the playoffs. So it's just a weird situation. I think for the good of all football fans and every team, like, what is happening? So we know if something happens to our guy, are we going to lose him for 3 weeks in the future? Like, is this going to be normal, or is this just a Tua thing? Is this just an individual's health matter right now, or is this going to be protocol going forward for other players? So it's just I hope the Dolphins work with the NFL and there's some sort of explanation so everyone knows if this is going to be the new normal, if a guy or especially a quarterback gets knocked out or what. But as far as the game, I kind of looking back. These two teams are in the same division, so they've played each other twice this year already. Both games were very close. Buffalo went to Miami in week 3, so early in the season it was a 2-point game, and they lost. Miami won, and in that game, Tua only threw for 186 yards. Their top rusher only rushed for 21 yards. So it's not like they put up a ton of offense. The score was 19-21. So it was a low-scoring game with all the starters. Second time they played, it was the opposite. Bills won 32-29 in week 16, end of the season. But it's like, so it's been close both times. One low scoring, one a high scoring. Second game, Tua played better, had more stats. So, but it was still close. So, this what Skylar Thompson, I think, the quarterback playing
Right.
today for the Dolphins. If As long as the defense can make it like that week 3 game and not allow the Bills to score a ton of points, which they showed they can do, Maybe this kid has a chance just to manage the game and keep it close. Um, but I think the Bills are just going to be so pumped, and it's a playoff game. It's a home playoff game. They know they have kind of, injured Miami team coming in, kind of, but they still have Waddle. They still have Tyreek Hill. I
Right.
mean, they still have guys that you throw a 5 yard slant can take it 70 yards. So you don't have to be the best quarterback in the world. You just got to get the ball in these guys' hands somewhere. Um, so for that reason, I'm going to take Miami just because 10.5 is a lot in any playoff game. I mean, Miami got in. They're no slouch. They haven't been playing good at the end of the season. Um, but still 10.5 for a team that you've already played twice, and no game's been more than 3 points. I yeah, I'll just take Miami. I do believe Buffalo's going to win this, but hopefully Miami doesn't lose by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, yeah. This was a tough one for me, and and I'll be a little bit different here. Just in what was tough for me is that half a point. I think
Yeah,
I kind of look at maybe the San Francisco Seattle game where Seattle kept it close, and then things just didn't go their way, and then the better team finally started capitalizing on those mistakes and getting the run and the momentum, and then they just opened that game up, and the score was a lot worse than the actual game looked, and 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 I kind of see that may happen, that this could be close for 2 3 quarters and then open up. I'd probably say 10 points. I'll take Buffalo. 10.5 just kind of stretches it out there a little bit to where different scoring scenarios have to happen, I suppose. I'm also going to go with Miami. I do think Buffalo could win by 10, but I'm going to take Miami here as well. I just because you want to you hope to see better football. You hope to see the Chargers Jaguars game in the playoffs, right?
yeah.
And and with Tua missing really a good chunk of the season, Miami still made the playoffs. So they have the talent, and you can't just put it all on. Oh, we don't have our quarterback, so we suck. So
Well,
yeah.
and one thing that almost made me want to take Buffalo too is Hamlin, the safety that got injured and had his basically a heart attack or got hit on his heart to make his heart stop during the hit. Will be at the game, so he's been
Mm.
released. I'm imagined that he won't even be on the sidelines. He'll probably be up in a box with his family, with the owner, if I had to guess. So there's going to be a lot of emotion there because I'm sure they'll have him come into the locker room before the game and thank his teammates and like pep them up. Um, so if anything, I would look for like high energy on Buffalo coming right off the gate because of that. They know their brother's back. They've got to see him. They all got to talk to him. They could go out like gangbusters right off the bat from that energy and really, just throttle Miami right off the bat. That's the only way I see this being a blowout is if Buffalo just comes out and it's like, well, but we don't know, but kind of like the Seattle game or the what, not the Seattle game, but the Charger game, like 20-0 right off the bat, Bills, like just bam 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 bam. Um, but so that'll be interesting to watch. I think early momentum could be the reason Buffalo hits that spread.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to an NFC game, NFC wildcard game. It is the New York Giants are going to visit Minnesota, and Minnesota is favored, just not by a lot, because you never know what Minnesota team you're going to get at home. This was, you know what? I have no reason doing this, but this is the time of season that Minnesota just they you just don't you I don't know that do they still not have an identity? Do they still not something that doesn't get them over the hump? I'm taking the Giants here just because they're in a unique position. They don't get here very often much. This is a kind of a last chance gasp for New York, and I think on paper Minnesota wins this game. I wouldn't, trust me, I won't be surprised if Minnesota wins this game. But I just I'm taking New York, um, even with the the spread. Maybe Minnesota wins by one. But no, I'm taking the Giants here, and I think that's just more of an emotional thing. I just don't think Minnesota's consistent enough. Do I think the Giants will win next week? If they win, probably not. But I mean, but here we are. The Giants or the Jaguars, I suppose, of this game, and to come in and and upset the cart, and yeah. So I'm taking the Giants.
Nice. These teams just played a few weeks ago. So the Giants went to Minnesota in week 16, and Minnesota only won by 3. So, I mean, it was a close game. It was a 3-point game. I'm going to take the Vikings just because they have won. They have beat the Giants recently by 3 at home. It is a playoff game. It's a home playoff game. Minnesota has a great fan base. So, that dome's going to be rocking today. Um, Daniel Jones and Cousins, some, you know, they're both kind of similar. I mean, sometimes they have a really good game, and sometimes they're just kind of average. You would like to think that Cousins would play a lot better for what his contract is and the talent he has around him. He has Justin Jefferson, who led every single category for a wide receiver in the regular season. They do have Cook, who's good. So they have talent there. They have Thielen. Talent-wise, I think they're stacked up a little bit better, at least on the offensive side. So if things are clicking, I feel like they should score more points. One thing Daniel Jones did do very well this year, better than I think anybody in the NFL. I think he had the least amount of interceptions of any quarterback that played as many games as he did. So at least he's taking care of the ball. Young guy not turning it over a lot, which in big games that sometimes wins you games. Don't turn the ball over. I mean, what happened last night with the Jaguars and Lawrence throwing 3 interceptions and another fumble or whatever, 4 interceptions and all the turnovers they have. That's what made that game so amazing. Is you never win games, especially playoff games, if you turn the ball over 4 times. Like you just, right. That's usually in a game more than, well, it's at least a minimum a third of your possessions a game you've turned the ball over. But yeah, just because I've seen Vikings do it recently, just a few weeks ago, 1 by 3, I'll take that 3. If it was any more though, I would take the Giants. I think this, Vikings do, and it will be by like a field goal.
Okay. Yeah, so you got a chance to pick up a game on me this week right there. All right, back to the AFC. So tonight we've got the Baltimore Ravens, still without Lamar Jackson with his knee sprain. Again, another one. I just don't know what's going to go on with this guy. He's your franchise, and unfortunately, the franchise goes with him and how they play. But anyway, the Ravens are going to Cincinnati. Cincinnati trying to get back to the Super Bowl. Cincinnati is favored at home by 6.5 tonight. And so, who you got here? What do you think?
So once again, it's kind of crazy. I don't really remember in the past this many games where the teams had already played this. Not just the teams have already played this season, but we have teams in the same division playing each other. So Seahawks, 49ers, same division. They played twice. Buffalo, Miami, same division, played twice. Baltimore, Cincinnati, same division. Third game of the season. The first 2 games these guys played, Cincinnati lost at Baltimore 17-19 in week 5, but Lamar Jackson was playing. Barely beat them with Lamar Jackson. They played again the last game of the season. No Lamar Jackson. Cincinnati wins at home 27-16. So easily covering this spread the last time they played, which was a week ago. So they're basically playing back-to-back weeks against each other. Don't think a whole lot has changed. Cincinnati's a very good team. We saw the run they went on last year, and people forget Cincinnati was in the Super Bowl last year. So not the Chiefs, not the Bills. Cincinnati made it to the Super Bowl last year. So there's something there. I think very easily that they cover the spread, and I think the spread's even grown. So I take these spreads when I give them to Chuck to kind of put on the board. These are the first spreads that hit of the week. Unless there's some major injury or we don't know if this guy's playing, then I'll wait till like Thursday or Friday and see what the spread is. But with this game, we knew Lamar wasn't playing. But even knowing that, I think this game's moved up to 8.5 today on a lot of sites. So, and that may be with betting throughout the week in Vegas and things like that, like, oh, wow, everyone sees the Bengals winning. We need to move this spread up a bit. to maybe see some money on Baltimore come in. But yeah, everyone's betting Cincinnati, and I got to go Cincinnati. I think they easily win by a touchdown, which is the spread, an extra point. So Bengals at home, yeah, definitely taking them.
Yeah, I'm on board with you because I just think Cincinnati, they got a taste of the Super Bowl last year. They started out the season, it's just like almost like kind of like the Rams. It's like what's happening? How do you fall off so far? They struggled, but they've been they found their stride, and I think they're healthy for the most part, and I think that they'll cover the Lamar Jackson-less Baltimore Ravens just because again, you just see it when Lamar's there, they play it completely different. There's a different energy on the team, and and that's again going to be another big conversation with some of these quarterbacks that just can't stay healthy throughout the season, and what that does to your playoff. I mean, it's getting to where the league just needs to have two key or two starting quarterbacks on their team that are the same. They got to be the same. It's like the Cardinals. You got Kyler Murray. You got Colt McCoy. Two completely different quarterback styles in play. And when you have as a coach, you want to have a game plan. It has to be for your game plan based on your preferred personnel. And so when Lamar Jackson goes out, whoever steps in has to be an equal replacement, just like you'd want to have on your line or receivers or anything like that. So, again, with the injuries to Lamar, Kyler, all of them, I think you're going to start seeing teams. I mean, the pool of quarterbacks is going to get, I think, going to need to be deeper and stronger. But so I'm taking Cincinnati as well by 6.5. So that's tonight's game. So there's really only one more game left. Playoffs makes it so it gives us more time to actually talk about the games, I think, and analyze different things there. But so tomorrow night's game, the NFL chose to put in prime time the Dallas Cowboys traveling to Tampa Bay and to play the Buccaneers with Tom Brady. And Dallas is actually favored on the road by 3. When we got here to California Friday, we stayed with our friends Tammy and Stan. Stan is a huge Cowboy fan. When I woke up yesterday morning from in their spare bedroom, and I turned to the right, still kind of dark in the room. It was early. Turned to the right, put my feet on the floor, and what was facing me right there on the wall is a big old Des Bryant jersey signed. I'm like, is this a sign? That
Did you did you use it to clean up your puke after you threw up?
I was like, what kind of hell am I in? But no, it was so I struggled with this one because I was talking with Stan about it, and he didn't really want to talk to us. Chuck, I don't want to talk about the game because I don't know that he knows what's going to happen either, and he feels that because they threw it on Monday night, that this is a tough one for me because I'm not a big believer in Tampa Bay, and but you know what, this is really a tough one for me. But Dallas they just seem to get themselves in trouble and they can't get out of it. Um, Yeah, this is a toss-up. I could flip a coin and probably be happy with my pick, but I'm going to take Tampa Bay at home.
Yeah, and these teams played week one, which was so long, long, long ago, but they both played at full strength. They played in Tampa, and Tampa won 19-3, so it was kind of a butt kicking, which is kind of a weird thing because it's kind of, unfortunately for Dallas, it's a Dak thing. Which Dak is going to show up?
Yeah.
Brady's going to throw the ball 50 times. He's going to throw for 300 yards, probably a couple touchdowns, whatever. So you just got to be prepared to score a few touchdowns with Tampa Bay because, they're not world beaters this year. They've been injured a lot. They don't have the same momentum. I would say the one thing I look for Tampa Bay that is good in their favor is usually when Dallas is playing good, Dak has a lot of help from the running back. So, Pollard gets going, Ezekiel Elliott, pitches in well. But that defensive front for Tampa is pretty good, especially their D tackles inside, so they're going to have to run outside. Tampa Bay just kind of matches up nice with them on the defense because they also have two really good linebackers that tackle well. So Levante David, was one, and Devin White's the other one. They're kind of fly all over the field. So I think it really is going to come up to Dak Prescott because I don't believe that Dallas is going to be able to run the ball as well as they're going to want to against that Buccaneer defense. So it's just a thing of matchups. Um, I'm going to go ahead and pick Dallas though, just because the Buccaneers just haven't been that consistent on offense, and they still have the same players as last year. So it's like you got the same crew together. Yeah, you have a head coaching change and all that, but ultimately you have the same offensive talent, the same guys, but you're just not putting points on the board. Where Dallas kind of still can. They still have Lamb out there. They still have Schultz at tight end. They have, if they can get Pollard going, he can hit some big plays out of the backfield. And I just haven't seen that consistency from Tampa this year, where I feel safe taking them. So maybe they do win at home, but maybe they win by a point. Maybe they pull some miracle Tom Brady goat thing out at home. One last hurrah. Is this his last game? I don't know.
Right, right.
Is
Could
this
be.
his last game? Is this his last game in Tampa? Because if they win, they very well could be going on the road next weekend still, even if they win. So is this his last game in Tampa? That'll be interesting to see. But also, I need to catch up picks on you, and this can maybe be one I get. So yeah, Dallas. I'll take Dallas. I hate saying that, but yeah, I'll take Dallas today.
Yeah, I was actually coming into today thinking I would probably I might take Dallas, and again they're just difficult for me to pick. I have my concerns with how far they can go in the playoffs, and winning a championship. And I think they have a better coach, but they still have some gaps in talent. Um, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. So that's really it for the games. What is your game of the games that are left? The Miami, Buffalo, Giants, Minnesota, Baltimore, Cincinnati, or Dallas, Tampa Bay. What is your game of the weekend that's still in front of us?
Yeah, still in front of us is the key because obviously my game was yesterday. We have a quarterback that made 935K this year compared to Russell Wilson, who won 4 games at 25 million a year. So he only made 25 times what my quarterback made this season, and my quarterback's 6-0, and Russell played most of the season. He didn't win 6 games all year. Um, so that was pretty awesome. Uh, Also goes to show, like, hey, do we need to pay quarterbacks 25 million a year? We took this kid the last pick of the draft. He's a rookie and he's 6-0. Do you need to pay a guy $25 million a year? I don't know. I don't think you do. How's your Kyler Murray doing over there for
Oh,
30
20.
bazillion dollars a year? Do you need to pay a guy 30 million to not play real great? Um, but today, I think my game of the week, it is going to be that Dallas Tampa Bay game on Monday because, for all the reasons I said, this game could go wherever. Who knows? Tom Brady's the GOAT. He still has magic. Maybe he has some of that magic and something happens. It's the playoffs. He's got a big story this year out of his whole Hall of Fame career. Played 76 seasons in the league, had so many different historical moments in time in the league. Does his story just keep going? Goes through a terribly, you know, public divorce with the highest paid supermodel of all time. All this is happening. He's trying to put out a clothing brand, a wellness brand. This dude's doing so much shit. How can he focus on being a quarterback? So many things are happening, yet he still barely gets his team into the playoffs because he's the GOAT, right?
Right.
His wide receivers are banged up. He's got a bunch of old players. They still make it. Head coach he didn't even know was going to be the head coach when he signed back up this year. All of a sudden, out of the blue, coach is retiring. Hey, here's your coach. All these things happening. Still has a home game. First week of the playoffs. The GOAT. So I think just because of the storylines and is this his last game ever? Is it just his last game in Tampa Bay? Dallas is Dallas. Dallas is the highest selling NFL franchise in the history of the NFL with Jerry Jones and all over the world. You got Cowboy supporters have never even seen a Cowboy game in their life, kind of like Raider fans. So I think there's so much storyline in this game that it'll be really interesting to watch. Not that the other game, I mean, the other games just suck because Miami has their third string quarterback, who isn't Brock Purdy, who isn't 6-0. Um, and then same with Baltimore. You got another backup quarterback. You're supposed to be watching a guy that was a league MVP in Lamar Jackson, not 100%, gimpy knee, can't go. I mean, so I can't take those games because I feel there's one team that is at a huge disadvantage at the most important position on the field going into the playoffs. And then Giants Minnesota is just kind of boring, and you don't know who's going to show up. Are they going to play good, or is this going to be a crappy game where they both play bad? Because we've seen them do that all year. So I think the best balanced game and the most storyline is that Dallas Tampa Bay game on Monday.
Yeah, I'm with you too because of the story. For everything that you just said, the storyline, and I don't think either of these teams are going to make the Super Bowl. So it's kind of watching the okay, hey, let's hopefully watch a really good football game, and because that's probably going to be it for them, depending on who they play next week. Because yeah, it's going to be tough. There's still good teams left in the NFC with 49ers and the Eagles. So you know,
Yeah.
I, it's I think there's two games where we're not going to see. I don't think either team has a chance. The Giants, Minnesota, Dallas, Tampa Bay, to me, don't have a chance of making the Super Bowl with who
No.
they have to get through.
Yeah, and
So,
that's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, you look at the NFC games today, and it's like, who cares? Who cares? Because right now, if you've been watching football for the past half of a season, the NFC Championship has to be the Eagles and the 49ers. I don't, the Giants aren't that great. Minnesota's super inconsistent. Tampa Bay hasn't been great all year. They almost got into the playoffs with a losing record. Dallas is inconsistent. Dak's been very inconsistent. I mean, if this is an Eagles 49ers in the NFC Championship, something crazy happened, really. Where you can't say that about the AFC. I mean, you got Buffalo, Cincinnati, and you got the Chiefs. There's three very legitimate contenders in the AFC that could make the Super Bowl.
yeah.
Anything could happen. Any one of those three, I would put almost any amount of money you gave me that one of those three in the AFC are going to make the Super Bowl. You can't say that. I mean, in the NFC, it's basically a two-team show. It looks like somewhat easily a two-team show, and just unless something just crazy happens.
Let's see. Kim's got a. You never know what's going to happen in the playoffs. It's always on who. Yeah, yeah, and it's why they play the games. I mean, because on paper, yeah, I would have taken the Chargers last night. Jaguars are my spoilers, as I've said before. But yeah, so hey, so with that, everyone, again, if you hopefully you're watching the replay and on Facebook or YouTube this week, and if you're watching the replay, put in the comments who you think is going to win the games as you're watching through this. We'd love to see that. We'll be notified. We'll respond. And but yeah, other than that, any final words for the week, Dave?
No, just have a fun time. I mean, we're coming down to it. There's a lot of people who, I know fans of most of these teams. Just have a great time watching your team in the playoffs, especially since you never know when it could be the last game you're watching your team play of the season. Then we got to wait till basically the end of August to get back into this thing. I like doing this so much every week that, we're a football show, but I might have to tangent over and do the second half of the NBA on some other secondary go live on Facebook or something, because that's a long time. Start of February to August to be silent about sports here on the blind. So maybe I'll pop in since we are still sports and drafts on all of our things, even though our show is football beer. That's why we're here. So maybe I pop in, maybe Chuck pops in every once in a while, and we just go live about some other great sporting event that's happened. Maybe we get on and last round of the Masters this year. We both like golf. Maybe we get on and talk a little bit about that. We're not going to have a weekly show, but maybe during the NBA playoffs, I might pop off and on. So just look for some more content maybe after the football season. Of just some random great sporting events that are happening, major championships or major tournaments or something like that, where we might give you a little bit more, might share a beer while we do it. Um, but yeah, it's been a great season and it's winding down. So just really enjoy having some good food, some good brews. Get you a Davy Brown Ale from Figueroa Mountain if you can, or something to enjoy, and just enjoy the rest of this NFL season as it's going to go by really fast.
I agree with you. We'll have to find a reason to get back on here. I've been thinking about doing a golf live stream as well, so maybe we can find some events and talk just some random sports for 30 minutes and keep this thing going. All right, everyone. We'll have a fantastic football Sunday. Enjoy your playoffs, and we will see you back here. Keep track of the notifications because we'll probably have a modified schedule next week. Maybe we can do something Saturday before the games, but David and I'll work that out so we can get on here and chat with you guys. And but hey, thanks for joining us. We love all the views we get throughout the week as well, and we'll see you all next week. Bye now.